Ryan Poles, George McCaskey, Kevin Warren, all speaking. So much to get to. Stick it right here on the CHGO Bears Podcast. All right. We are moving it forward. Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, George McCaskey, 2025. Here we come. Yeah, this is the CHGO Bears Podcast. Yours truly, Mark Carman, Adam Hoge, Greg Braggs. Two of us were out there today. Another was doing what he does, leading men all over the planet, women, animals, the whole thing.
Bears Twitter.
Yeah, Bears Twitter.
That's
Thank
where
you.
I was.
That's an excellent point.
The mean streets.
There is 8 zillion things to get today. We got a ton of audio. We got a ton of video. We got a ton of reaction for you. But what we like to do on these big days, started out with you, Adam Hoge. The Adam Hoge, it's almost like a post-game show. The Adam Hoge instant reaction. Give it to us, big boy.
I got to be honest with you. I need to go on a little rant here for a second.
I can't wait. Let's go.
Yeah, at the risk of trying to make it seem like everything we're about to talk about the rest of the show doesn't matter, I'm just so sick of this. That's all I could think about while I was in there. It's how many times have I been in that media room, in that Midway next door, talking to the same people? I mean, some of them are different. It's a different GM. It's a different president. It's always the same owner. And it's all like the quotes are the same. We have faith in this guy. We have faith in that guy. George coming out and saying that, it's all on him. Well, he said that before. He said that they haven't won enough under the leadership of George McCaskey back in 2020. He said that. Virginia was pissed off in 2024. That was 10 years ago. So everybody's looking for a reason that they're going to get it right this time. And the reality is there is no reason to believe that right now. But
here comes the but.
Maybe they just will. And if they do,
because dadgummit, they're going to try.
If they do, then maybe everything will be okay. But in terms of the words, and we're going to talk about them here, what was said by the general manager, what was said by the team president, what was said by the chairman, you can change the names. The quotes are mostly the same over the years. It's just kind of like what happened with the quarterback. It's just maybe there will be a 4th and 20 in a random game played by the Texans and the Colts where the ball bounces the right way and the Bears end up with a pick that they're able to do something with, and they end up with Caleb Williams. I don't know what the equivalent of that is in a coaching search.
You're going to draft our coach.
Maybe it's Mike Vrabel. His flight gets redirected. There's an emergency on the plane to Boston. Or if he decides to go into Providence and he gets redirected to Chicago and there's some weird thing and George McCaskey's there in his Letterman jacket to greet him and he convinces him not to get back on that plane. I don't know what it is, but I'm just so sick of the conversations and the quotes and everything. It's the same thing overall, over and over again. And I guess maybe they'll get it right. That's all you can. I don't know what else to say at this point. I really don't. I don't want to lie to people.
No, I think it's fair to question. And the team hasn't earned our trust as fans. But you're right. We're just going to hope for the best. If you're the cynical type that's going to expect the worst, so be it. I've always said, yes, it's 14. We're up to 14 head coaching candidates that they've requested to interview. It's a lot. And you could argue that might be too much, but you know what? Let's just hope they get it right. And that's all we have at this point is hope.
Well, let me try to.
By the way, I'm holding my head because I literally have a headache.
Me too. I've got one too.
And I did not have it when I woke up. And I know I had enough caffeine this morning because I went with the triple espresso on my way to Hallis Hall instead of the usual double. It's what happened at Hallis.
Okay, somebody give me a couple of Advil and a good head coach, or at least here. Listen, can I, if I may, let me just give the Bears a little bit of a piece of advice here. Look, the thing that stood out to me today, what's going to be different? And Poles' answer was along the lines, well, we're casting a very wide net, as opposed to last time when it was a very short net, and they knew that they were hiring Matt Eberflus even before he walked in the door. Before he took the job, he knew who his head coach was going to be. So now it's good that we're casting a wide net, all right? The Chicago Bears are not the franchise that should be casting a wide net to try to find the diamond in the rough underneath the rock in Lake Michigan. Know yourself well enough that you're not good enough to do that. You're not the elite GM out there. You're not the elite president. You're not the elite owner. Take the dude that is screaming at you in the face and go ahead and draft him. You didn't even cast a wide net when you had the number 3 overall pick at quarterback. You didn't go and talk to Deshaun Watson at that point. Last year, you didn't cast a wide net. You didn't talk to Jaden Daniels. Don't cast some 15-mile wide net on the head coach. Go tell Ben Johnson you're going to pay him the most money of anyone, and tell Mike Vrabel the same thing, and tell your third candidate that, and we don't need this whole 15 candidates. You're going to figure something out. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, but who are the obvious candidates?
I think it's a clear top 2, and whoever you want to put, it's 3. Your 3, Brian Flores, I have no problem.
But here's the problem. Those 2 are not a slam dunk to come here.
I understand.
So you have to cast a wide net.
Okay. Because it doesn't need to be 15 miles wide. Who are your top 5, top 6? You're going to interview 15, 13, 14. How deep are we going to go here?
Well, I think the danger is when you're interviewing that many people, and you heard Kevin Warren talk about today, and we'll play his video later of him speaking at Hallis Hall, but he talked about what he learned in Minnesota was don't go in with a predetermined decision on your coach.
That was another thing that was interesting.
And so you get to a point here now where you have 14 candidates. The danger of that is
you talk yourself into
somebody that you never would have otherwise. Matt Nagy
or
Matt Eberflus. That's the danger.
Well, I don't know. In theory,
you also can find a diamond in the rough. Like, I don't know how the coaching search went back with Lovie Smith. You know, you were around back then.
Let's stay on task here. What matters today is these press conferences.
Right.
Let's play some of this video. Let's react to it. We got a million days here to talk about the candidates and things like that. So I don't know where we want to start. I know we're going to go with polls first here.
Yeah, and okay. Well,
let's start at the top with his relationship with Warren.
Yeah, that's actually a key point here. I think 2 things off the top are
the thing he said right away.
Yeah, who the hell is running this thing? It might have been one of the I think they tried really diligently to answer that question. But when you get past the words that were said and how it was all handled, I think it still is a question. But let's start with his relationship, Ryan Poles' relationship with Kevin Warren, and go from there.
You got that, Steven? It's Poles disappointed in season. Yep.
So I'm disappointed, just like our fans are, but I'm not discouraged. I believe we have a strong core of players that we're going to connect to the right staff as they come in to make the progress that's needed. I'm grateful for George and Kevin and their trust in me to continue to get this thing back on track and get it corrected. I do want to address some of the things that I've heard about the relationship between Kevin and I that couldn't be further from the truth. We spend almost every single day together talking about solutions and direction of where we want to be and where we're going to go. It is so far from the truth. It was a little disappointing to hear that, to be honest.
So a little disappointing to hear that. He's got a great relationship with Kevin.
I get what he's saying, and I do think that was genuine. The Bears created that problem themselves, though.
Yep.
Okay, and that just needs to be pointed out. The way that press conference when they fired Matt Eberflus was handled, whether it was intentional or not intentional, whether Kevin Warren was jacked up to talk to everyone and Ryan Poles just wasn't, like
Right.
whatever. It's like the results on a football field. You come in with some intentions, the results are otherwise, and everybody reacts to the results. That was the result of that press conference that created this perception. And I know there were reports out there too that is probably more specifically what he's addressing there when he says he's disappointed by it. But what matters more than what we thought about that dynamic or what the fans thought about that dynamic was this was a real thing that I reported on. People around the league.
Correct.
Teams are watching these press conferences. They are paying attention. Ben Johnson is watching that press conference. Okay? That dynamic was created by that day. And so I get where he's coming from. I'm not trying to push back on it at all. I'm just saying that, like, there needs to be a little bit of self-awareness that wasn't like some media-created conspiracy.
Jeremy Fowler joined us a couple weeks ago from the owners' meeting and specifically said that there were questions around the league from people of exactly how the structure at Hallis Hall works. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, you're firing Matt Eberflus, somebody that you believed in. You have to go to a podium with Kevin Warren, and you've got, resting Hoge face. Hoge, you've been victim of this where people try to read your face or body language, and it's not always exactly like right there. You're probably just intently listening, Hoge, but really,
See, what
it
I
looks
wanna
like
know
you're
about this-
disgusted by what George McCaskey is saying.
See, what I want to know about this photo is, was this during an answer where I asked the question? Where they're looking directly.
No, you were just.
It's not.
It was.
No.
It's a
Okay,
video.
good. Because I want to be clear. When I ask Kevin Warren's really good at looking you in the eye. When you ask him a question, like sometimes you'll ask somebody a question and they know who answered it or asked it and they'll forget and they're just kind of randomly making eye contact across the room. Kevin Warren's really good at, like, Carman, you ask me the question, I'm going to look you in the eye the entire time I answer your question. It's a little intimidating. I'm not even going to lie.
It is.
So when he's doing that, I'm trying to look him back in the eye as much as I'm also trying to look at my video to make sure it's centered on him. It's a hard thing to do. And I just wanted to make sure that wasn't the look on my face as we were looking at each other.
And also for clarity, I do believe that is a screenshot from a video as George McCaskey was speaking and answering someone else. But the point still stands.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
Right,
then.
the point still stands. That is how Hoge listens intently. And sometimes he'll be giving me that look, and I'm like, is he gonna kill me, or is he listening to me right now?
Well,
but that's the whole point.
There was a list being written up this morning slowly.
Yes. So, but that's just the point of where you can go too far reading body language. I've always said if you watch any of the stuff with the Bears from the 1920 football drive stuff they showed in the offseason, during the draft room, like Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles are close in anything you've ever seen at training camp, but it's a business. I think they had a close relationship with Matt Eberflus and they eventually fired him. So, it's all here now. Ryan Poles is here to stay. He's the point person leading this, and they are connected. And George McCaskey kind of laid out the operation of the hierarchy on who answers to who. And we just have to hope that the coach that comes in here, and hopefully one of these top candidates believes in that structure.
Well, and first of all, never change resting Hoge face. It's.
Well, you can't.
One,
It's incorrect.
I can't.
Excellent point. You can't. Two, let's be honest. Hoge was annoyed, so his resting Hoge face went to like the low end of like really annoyed.
There's different degrees of resting Hoge face.
This
that was the lowest degree.
This was annoyed
To
resting.
be
Hoge.
annoyed, though, or to be clear, that was annoyed about other things
Yes, sure.
that weren't necessarily everything that was coming out of
Yeah.
the mouths of those people.
I want to follow up on that part of the Ryan Poles press conference with his annoyance about Kevin Warren on something else that he really leaned into hard, which was how they need to focus on their process. more so than results. We'll do that when we're coming back here. But first,
hey, if you're looking for the perfect way to elevate your day, I might need to do this right now, actually. This might be the answer.
do need some Verilife.
Yeah. At Verilife Dispensary, they have everything you need from premium cannabis products to expert advice. Whether you're new to cannabis or a connoisseur, their knowledgeable bud tenders are here to help with 8 convenient locations across Illinois. Any chance there's one in this building? There's one nearby. I know that.
In range.
Discovering your perfect experience has never been easier. Verilife proudly offers a price match guarantee, ensuring you get the best value by matching local competitors' prices on eligible products. Don't miss out on their latest deals and exclusive offers only at Verilife Cannabis stores and online at verilife.com. And if you place your order online, you can still redeem code CHGO25 at pickup to receive your discount. Just mention code CHGO25 in store and receive 25% off one regular priced item. Restrictions apply.
We're going to play the entire George McCaskey press conference in full. Same thing with Kevin Warren, and we got sound bites from Ryan Poles coming up as well. But first, a shout out to our friends at Factor Meal Kits, ready to optimize your nutrition for the year. Factor has chef-made gourmet, delicious meals that make eating well easy. They are dietitian approved. They're ready to heat in 2 minutes. You can feel great and fuel yourself up in no time, no matter what life is throwing at you. Factor arrives fresh, fully prepared for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with the Factor meal, the Factor Keto meals. That's based on a randomized, controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto. Results will vary depending on diet and exercise, so do that as well. 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week. There is something for everybody. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/CHGO Bears 50 off. Use the code CHGO Bears 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's the code CHGO Bears 50 off at factormeals.com/CHGO Bears 50 off to get 50% off free shipping on your first box. Thank you to our friends at Factor Meal Kits. Yes, Greg?
Why are you crying?
I can't.
Yeah, you can.
I just
You cannot cry. And
one person in the chat got it. Steven got it, and we'll just move on. We have more serious things to talk about today.
but I'm here for fun. I
want to hear from the.
Let's move on.
All right, so here, this was interesting in his opening statement about what went wrong this year. Poles says they're going forward. They want to focus on process. It's in the first. It's the first clip that I put in today, Steven. Which is interesting to me, by the way, with his lack of understanding, it's seemingly about why the Warren conversation went on. But here he's focusing on. We're not so much on the actual bottom line, but on how they got there.
After spending time going through the exit process with our players yesterday, reflecting and taking time to look back, one of the things that popped out, and I think it was a common theme, is I think we have to change back to our process over outcome. I think this year, with the excitement of the season, it was very much outcome over process. Winning, expectations, all of those things, which goals are fine. You never want to back down from that. But the detail, the accountability, the competitive poise in critical situations, finding a edge to win games is something that we came up short with.
Go ahead, Hoge. You get the hand up. You got to get a reaction on this.
Well, no, I'm just that happened because the process sucked.
Right.
And so when I'm speaking from a coaching standpoint, when that happens, when your process is bad, and then the outcome is a loss, you start to change what your process is the following week, which is the same. And there was a million red flags on this. So you go to week 1, when Cole Kmet plays way less than Gerald Everett, you're immediately scrambling and changing your process because everybody's confused about what the hell's going on, why the personnel is the way it is. And that's just one example. And so every week it was like then we had the debacle in Indy, which we almost forget about at this point. The goal line situation where we're running sprint option and all this crap. And so now we're changing that process.
And then that week they revealed they didn't do 15 scripted plays to start any of the games. DJ Moore brought that up.
So everything was reactive to what was a bad process. And so
instead of identifying that process before.
Right. So he's not wrong. This is not me arguing with what Poles said there. He's right. I'm just trying to explain why that happened. So the point is, hire a coach that has a good process, and then when everybody believes in that process and you don't have a 40-year-old veteran in your locker room saying we need to be coached harder in like week 2 or whatever that was.
Right.
Then if you lose a game to the Texans in week 2, it's not the end of the world. Everyone's going to be like, all right, we're back to work. We believe in what we're doing. The process is fine. And then you can because he's right. You have to have a process over outcome. Things are going to go wrong no matter what you're doing in life and whatever your job is. But the process is good. It's going to work out in the end. And the point is with this year, the reason why you lose 10 games in a row is your process was bad.
Right. And he also talked about in that quote, essentially, we were ahead of we always are going to have expectations to be a good team, make the playoffs. But our results got ahead of our process, and the win now mentality that he went into the season with. Well, you have to earn that, and you have to understand who your personnel is, and to get to that goal. And so another part of that process was putting way too much on Caleb Williams' plate to start the year on what his allowances were at the line of scrimmage, and that got more and more dialed back as the season went on. And so that was the thing we all struggled with, as the early parts of the season. Is this good or bad that he has so much responsibility at the line of scrimmage? And eventually the chickens came home to roost as the season went on in that regard.
Right, like he made a really sweet play on this training camp rep, but
right.
He did X, Y, Z
They
wrong.
drafted him, and they're like, he can handle all of this. Well, they were wrong.
Steven, let's get to that other clip then, because it has to do with this, about what Poles thinks they need to do. He said about challenging guys more and the accountability aspect. Do we have that one?
Could be.
I'll just read the quote. He said, I do think we need to challenge our guys more. And when we talk about accountability, there's systems of accountability. It's how we're going to put tape up on the screen, essentially, of this is not how we do it. And then with examples of this is how we do it. Sometimes that can be uncomfortable. I call that healthy friction. And I definitely think we need more of that. And that would help result in closing the gap on some of these games that we came up short. I mean, it's just an admission that it goes back to what I just brought up with what Mercedes Lewis said. And I think it's a direct he's talking about Shane Waldron, and he's talking about Matt Eberflus to some extent, but definitely Shane Waldron, about not being afraid of these guys. Thomas Brown said it yesterday. Confrontation. Well, it's not a bad thing. And Thomas Brown was like flabbergasted that there's not more people in the NFL that do this. So obviously they were afraid to do this, to coach these guys harder, to show everybody what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right. And I go back to the conversation I had with Kevin Byard last week about Mike Vrabel. And he's like, this is exactly what he would do there. The whole team.
Right.
This is what we do right. This is what we do wrong. And it's not even just the Titans. He would show the whole league. He would show examples from the whole league, stuff that's going on. So, which by the way, other teams did with the Bears multiple times this season, most notably with the Tyreek Stevens.
As someone that lives in confrontation, I
they
do not understand people that are afraid of it.
They need more of you, which I was thinking of you today. If we play one of my question to Poles, which was, about like keep on hearing about the locker room and process and this and that. It's like, dude, do we need somebody else in the locker room to help with your process?
Say that one more time.
The locker room itself needing more leadership. Like the players are asking for a coach, but I'm wondering if you're looking at the locker room right now thinking I need somebody to come in there.
Yeah, we definitely will take that into consideration as we add more talent to the roster. I've also challenged in some of our exit meetings some of our guys to take the next step to lead as well. I was in the same category, and some of our guys were too, in terms of I saw this and I just was, should I say something about this? Should I step up? And I encourage all those guys, we got to get to this place. We've been together long enough. There's continuity. We aren't going to take things personal anymore amongst each other, both in the front office and in football operations, but also in the locker room and in coaching. Like, we got to be able to have healthy friction, like I talked about, to say, hey, that's not the way we're supposed to do it. Let's clean it up and get better, because, again, that will show up later in the season.
So, I mean, I don't want to say that we have got a great process over here, but we have some serious healthy friction around here. You will scream at me, good old Gregory, to your heart's content until you feel better, and then you'll do whatever else to make you feel better. Look, the fact that he said in that clip that he thought about saying something this year and didn't stood out. Like, I saw it, and I didn't say anything. Dude.
Well, he should have. He should have done it really quick. And by the way, congrats to everybody that got on Circus Sportsbook and bet minus 500. The odds weren't great, but that Carman was going to play his own question to Ryan Poles on this show. It was a gimme. I know the odds weren't great, but you could have bet it. It was easy, free money for you.
I'd do the same thing. So I get it. No,
it was such a good question.
No, but it is true. And if Hoge, you said like, hey, what are the Bears going to do moving forward? How are they going to fix this? Let's talk about that. And so Poles said, I talked to some of these guys in their exit meeting about the next steps they need to take in being a leader. You had 8 captains on this team, but no real leaders. And that is something that you have to develop and become, because you don't walk into any room and you're just the leader. You have to earn that through your hard work and your relationships that you build with the people that you work with, whether it's in a locker room or in an office. And so these guys have to learn to have these uncomfortable conversations with each other because they care. And that is just something that has been vehemently missing. And so as these guys move forward, they got to get tougher on each other. 1,000%. You cannot just stand there idly by. If you are silent, then you are complicit in the failures that are happening underneath you.
All right. Look, yes.
He was silent there.
He was flabbergasted.
That
is the first time.
So he's complicit.
Couldn't believe it.
Well, I'm just stuck on. Thank you very much. I'm just stuck on. Does he understand what good process is? Like, is his process good? Was your process on Karan Amagaji good? Was your process on what was your process on understanding why people were talking about your relationship with Kevin Warren? Did you understand why that came? Your process there was to sit up at the press conference and act like you didn't want to be there. That was a bad process.
Which brings us back to the process of this coaching search.
Right. Thank
which
you.
I'm still confused about. I want to get in the contract extension stuff here in a second, but I know we gotta get to our next break, so I'll pivot just slightly because that's a longer discussion. But it still has to do with the process of the search. I'm trying to picture so I'm assuming there's a Ben Johnson Zoom call tomorrow that's happening. And based on what the Bears told us today, there's going to be approximately 78 people on the call.
Right. Who are these people?
I would like to be on this call.
I think you should be on the call, honestly. You could save the Bears. But go ahead.
Well, you guys were giving me a hard time last week for thinking that they should like use my information in the coaching search. Based on what you heard today, I feel like I should be one of the 78 people on the call.
I don't think we gave you a hard time. I agreed. I think they should use your stuff.
No, in all seriousness, though, like
in all seriousness, but go ahead. You did good work on that, but anyway,
I'm picturing the Zoom call tomorrow, and they're getting back to the process. Kevin Warren's thinking it's a great thing to have all these people. So if you missed it, it's going to be. Let me see if I can get this list up.
John's added too.
Yeah. So we got Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, George McCaskey, Matt Feinstein, who's like the cap guy, Jeff King, who's under Ian Cunningham in terms of the order in the front office. We'll get to Ian. We'll circle back to Ian in a second. Liz Geist, who's Executive Vice President of Human Relations.
Liz will be there?
Liz will be there.
All
HR.
Right. Okay, Liz.
HR.
Let's go, Liz.
Got to have HR on the call. Karen Murphy, the Executive Vice President of Stadium Development.
All right, K-Dog, let's go. She wants to know how he wants to walk out on the field. She'll script it.
Yeah. We're also going to have Ted Cruz in there.
Let's go, Ted.
Courtney confirmed that one. Shout out to Courtney. I assumed that Ted would have been one of the guys in there.
Ted will be positive.
It sounded like there was going to be more. Like, I'm assuming Bears PR. Well, if beyond just Ted,
Staley. Staley get a good window.
Staley, the
Tony
Bear.
Medlin.
But the point from Kevin, and we're going to hear from Kevin later, is like he wants the candidates to like get an idea of who all works in the building. Now, this might be sort of a byproduct of the virtual interviews, right, that the league's kind of mandating now early on in this process. Typically, if you bring, like when Vrabel comes in, and it sounds like that's happening tomorrow, so maybe the Ben Johnson calls Thursday, whatever. But Vrabel comes in tomorrow. He's going to meet all these people anyway. He's going to be in the building, right? You can't do that with Ben Johnson. So maybe that's why they're putting all these people on this Zoom call. So he can meet it. But I don't know. I'm picturing like Larry Mayer's on the call and he forgets to hit his mute button, and
or
wow.
He has one of those where it like changes his face into a cat. Like
or someone's got the virtual background behind them.
Well, so okay. Would you rather have all of that, or hey, Ben, it's Ryan.
Exactly.
Tomorrow, 1:00, me and you. Let's talk this through.
I agree, because look at today's
right?
Exactly, because look at today's optics. When you rewind back to our earlier conversation of the optics of Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren addressing the firing of Matt Eberflus, and how that created this ripple effect of the league questioning the structure and hierarchy with the Chicago Bears front office. Now you have a head coaching candidate coming in, and there's going to be all these people. Well, they righted the wrong today of the last press conference by having Ryan Poles stand up at the podium by himself. They didn't put McCaskey and Kevin Warren, who also spoke to the media, together. They had Ryan by himself to make it clear this is him. He's going to make the decisions. And so now you have an interview with that head coach. Leave all these other people out of it and just let Ryan Poles handle it. And when you get to the point of wanting to circle in on the guy you want, then introduce him to the gang at Hallis.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Thoughts on that whole thing with the optics with Poles today, and in juxtaposition to his contract situation. We will talk about that coming up next. But first, Game Time. Talk about Game Time a lot because it's awesome. Their app is outstanding. I use it all the time, especially for last-minute tickets and even sometimes planning ahead. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. You could see right there, look at the app. It's going to show you the best spot right away, and if you click that little icon that pops up, then you can see the views from the seats as well. They're going to give you the tickets on time. That's guaranteed. They have the lowest price guaranteed. They also give you event cancellation protection, job loss protection. Game Time is the best place to go, even if you just want to check what the prices are. I'm telling you, compared to other apps, Game Time is the easiest way to do it and going to be most accurate. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
That's right. Hit up Game Time. And when you hit up that game or event with Game Time, make sure you're rocking yourself some Shady Rays. Best in the business. I probably have 10 pairs of Shady Rays at home. They're as good as it gets. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays has you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames and crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all outdoor adventures. They have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. They probably have a style in your favorite team's color. In fact, they absolutely do. I know they got the good a great Bears sunglasses that I got at home. Plus, if your Shady Rays ever go missing or take an unexpected hit, don't sweat it. They have the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair is backed by lost or broken replacements. That's probably their best feature, man. They take care of their customers. If you don't love your shades, exchange for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back with personal and fast support. Exclusively For our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal for the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code CHGO for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
So one of the things I thought the Bears did well today was make it clear that Ryan Poles is the point person running this search. That's why he was out there solo podium, not the table. They you know, you can go one way or the other on that one. Last time they went table, 2 people sitting there. This time it's the lectern, technically. And then they had the president, chairman talk on the side in the other room, which they've done that process before. You know, including when Kevin Warren was introduced a couple of years ago. Then they had Ryan Poles and Ted Phillips and George McCaskey available, you know, outside the auditorium there. So I thought that got across, and the messaging on that was good today. That's great. The answer of Ryan Poles' contract situation, however, was not clearly answered. And when it was kind of answered, it would lead you to believe that he has not been extended. Because...
And who asked this question, Mark? Our guy Hoge.
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
We've got a Hoge question coming up, but this was drilled down by a lot of people. I mean, Courtney Cronin gets in there on this one, but it's true.
Well, because it matters. And I respectfully understand Ryan Poles' position. That was one of the first questions I asked him was, were you extended? And he said it's not. I don't find it, you know, paraphrasing. He just doesn't think it's necessary for people to know how much he makes or how long he's making it.
No, we need to know, Ryan.
I don't need to know how much he's making. But candidates need to know how long he's there. Now, he also he actually interrupted my follow-up because he knew what my follow-up was going to be. And then he said, well, that information will be communicated to candidates. So that's great. I mean, as long as they know that, but it's still relevant. If that answer is, I have not been extended, I got 1 year left on my deal, which Kevin Warren kind of oddly said 1 year is a lifetime. Well, when you're with the Bears, it kind of is. And then George McCaskey later was asked if Ryan Poles needed to be extended, and he said no, like it hadn't happened. So that would lead you to believe that he hasn't been. And with that still hanging over it, and also Courtney asked another great question to Kevin about, like, if a head coaching candidate wants to bring in their own GM, how would you handle that? And
George got that question too, and George is like, what are you talking about?
Well, George...
But go ahead.
No, George. The George question was different because the question I asked to George was if the head coach wants to report directly to ownership, and he basically shut that down. No, we have a vertical structure. It's chairman, president, GM, coach. Now that's just the way it's going to be. Kevin Warren kind of is like, well, that's a hypothetical about if a head coach would want to bring in his own GM. He didn't shut the door to it, though, in that answer. He didn't. That answer to that question could have easily been Ryan Poles is our general manager in 2025.
Could have been, yes.
And it wasn't. So my point is, with the optics, I thought they did a good job in terms of making it clear Ryan Poles is doing this. When you throw in the full context, I don't think that they answer enough of those questions to make you fully believe that if push comes to shove, Ryan Poles wants this guy, Kevin Warren wants this guy, George McCaskey wants this guy, who's going to get their way?
Well, should we play Kevin and then we can react to it, or would you like you want to continue on down the road here? Because I look, it was bizarre as far as my read on that part of it. Like, you are saying clearly that you don't really know who you're hiring, that you want to cast a really wide net. Warren was asked about, what have you learned from your time in Minnesota, to not go in knowing who you're going to hire. Okay. And now here's a question that's about the GM part of it. And Kevin sort of leans on the fact that this is a great job that people are just going to want, period. That this is Chicago. This is the Bears. this is a rare opportunity. We have amazing fans. We've got Caleb.
Right.
People are going to want to come here versus the process, if you will, of your GM may or may not be here, and the dude doesn't know who he's going to be working for next year, which probably means a whole lot more to him than Bozo, the king of all kings, sitting in the last row of the, in the corner of the end zone.
Hey,
I wasn't going to name you by name, but like he probably cares more about that part of it than the fact that they're really cheering for him really loud, and the fan base is super passionate, which is sweet.
well,
But that's not what you're going to,
who cares about Ryan Poles' contract the most? Potential candidates. And Ben
Exactly.
Johnson has reportedly put out through, if you listen to the reports of like insiders like Albert Breer and others saying that organizational alignment is key. And, Kevin Warren was asked, is he committed to Ryan Poles? And he said, when we say long-term, a year is a lifetime. Well, no, not for a potential head coaching candidate. 1 year is not enough.
Well,
They need to be tied together for more than 1 year, or they could all be shown the door if things didn't work out for Ryan Poles a year from now.
Yeah, and look, this is not a black and white. I get that this is a tricky situation to handle. Maybe even I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth on this one, because I honestly think if this ends with, and let's just say it's hypothetically Ben Johnson hits it off with Ryan Poles. And here's a little bit of reporting on this, okay? Because from what I gather so far, from some conversations and kind of taking in all the information, I do believe Ben Johnson is open to working with Ryan Poles, but they need to have those conversations. They need to have those interviews, and that will be a huge thing, how they hit it off. And I don't think he feels the same way about Trent Baalke in Jacksonville right now.
That's what it seems like.
So,
a lot of reporting around that.
So I do think that that's a good sign. And I do think that if they do hit it off and they are aligned after the interview process, that you probably will see Ryan Poles get a contract extension. And I actually think that that's exactly how that should be handled. Because I think they made a mistake back in 2018, right? That's when they hired Matt Nagy? Yeah. When they came out and they said, we've extended Ryan Pace because we need to have that alignment. And so maybe they are learning from that. And they're at least leaving the door open to the possibility that maybe choice A doesn't work out, choice B, and they go down a road where at the end of the day, maybe they hire someone that doesn't care so much about being aligned up with the GM, and they look at Ryan Poles' performance right now and they say, you don't necessarily deserve a contract extension. So I'm not saying that needed to be done. All I'm saying is the messaging they put out today, answering that very difficult, tricky question, does not give off the vibe that we are married to Ryan Poles and we truly believe what our words are, what words we are putting out there to the fan base. Does that make sense?
Well, saying that Ben Johnson is willing to work with Ryan Poles is probably the nicest thing you've ever said. Thank you for that.
Well,
you're welcome.
But like my
I could just leave now.
Go after yourself.
That's what I needed to hear.
my in the moment watching the press conference, I felt like the Bears, Kevin, George, who else was sitting over there? Was Ed over there? Who else was in the
Ed Obradovich?
Isn't there an Ed McCaskey? How many?
Yeah.
I feel like an Ed McCaskey was looming over the proceedings as well. Whatever.
That was Pat McCaskey.
Oh, was that Pat? That was Pat? Okay, my bad, Pat. I will do a game one of these days, learn the McCaskey that you haven't learned that I need to learn. Shout out.
Ed McCaskey was Virginia's husband.
Oh, Ed, he was a great man, too.
So, you know what? He was with us spiritually.
He was.
In the room today.
I felt his aura looming, too. And, Pat, you were there, and everybody did a great job. Look, my point in all this is that I just felt like watching Ryan up there. This is what they want. They like Ryan. He's a soft-spoken, composed, just as far as the general manager that they want up there, I just see them liking him. I think
anybody that's ever met Ryan would agree with that. Like, right. I've had the opportunity to talk to him for a length of time, and I respect him. And I can't say that about other people within the Bears organization that I've talked to at times. Like, I appreciate the way Ryan carries himself. He hasn't been perfect at his job, but I I do respect him, and I do think he has the qualities of someone that could be a good GM, but his resume so far is a bad team, bad coaching hires, and some flawed processes in some of the personnel he's decided. That's not to say he hasn't done some good things well, but it's been a rocky road so far. And so you're hoping that these 3 years now lead to 3 much better years going forward.
But along those lines, I also think that constantly resetting the general manager, you're resetting your roster. A new GM's going to come and be like, I don't like this player, even if they're a good player. I don't like this player. I want to trade him. And it goes down a cycle you don't necessarily want to be on. Look at the Titans; they look like a mess right now since they fired Vrabel. And then they fired Rand Carthon today. Yep. Like, what are you doing there? You're just in a weird. So you don't want to get stuck in that cycle. And look at
these other teams that are sticking with their GMs, the Giants and the Jaguars and some other teams.
But on the other side of that, you also don't want to just stick with a guy because you're trying to create continuity. He's not really doing a good enough job at his job. So to me, getting back to Ben Johnson, I think the best way for this to play out, if there is a best way, would be for those two to really hit it off, to find out that they are aligned. Or let's look at Mike Vrabel. Albert Breer had a fantastic little nugget on Cap and Hood this morning about how Vrabel and former GM in Tennessee, John Robinson, they used the Scott Pioli scouting system, which is the same system that Ryan Poles came up with in Kansas City. So they might be aligned there in how they view players, how they look at players, and like stuff like that matters. So whether it's Vrabel or it's Ben Johnson or maybe it's some other dark horse candidate that comes to the forefront, if they actually really look at Ryan Poles and say the same things you just said, Greg, and oh, by the way, we're aligned on how we scout players, how we want to build a roster, that's probably the best case scenario because you're keeping the continuity that has been created. Because if you're saying Ryan Poles hasn't done anything here in the last 3 years, it's just not true. It's a completely different roster.
Salary cap's in a much better situation.
Yeah, there are positives. So if you could take the positives and align it and fix the negatives, which mostly has been the coaching, then I think you are on a much better track than scrapping this whole thing and starting over.
Well, let's rewind just a second to your question to polls today about the candidates and how do you're asking like, hey, you got one guy here who's an offensive guru, and then you got leader of men. Like, how are you trying to figure out what's more important to your football team?
There's a lot of discussion, and I'm sure you guys will have this discussion too, about pairing an offensive guy with a young quarterback versus a guy that can kind of oversee the whole thing and maybe has head coaching experience, things like that. Just what is your general philosophy when it comes to that kind of tug of war between those two head coaching candidates?
Yeah, I think there's for a young quarterback, obviously there's ideal fit, but at the end of the day, you got to look at all the characteristics of what you're looking for in a head coach, and then you got to see what's the best bundle of those to bring in the building. Obviously, we're talking about leadership, accountability, some of those important things that carry over regardless of what the situation is. So, those have to be there. To ignore those just to go to the other side, I think is a bad deal too. So really, it's the candidate that has the best collection of all of those things. And yes, the development of a young quarterback is going to be a huge factor in that.
So what's your take on that answer?
Well, I like the answer, to be honest with you, because I think what he said there makes sense. I mean, the first prerequisite has to be that the guy can command a whole room, lead a whole team, and in the words of DeMarcus Walker the other day, cut out the bullshit.
Right.
And that's the most important thing. The second thing that's also incredibly important, but falls below that first one, is the quarterback and creating that continuity with the quarterback. And so the best answer is the candidate that can do both. And so they got to find out if Ben Johnson can do both. They got to find out if Vrabel, who's not an offensive guy, can create that offensively with whoever he hires and whatever he puts together for his plan for a quarterback.
So let's just stop right there on the Ben Johnson part of it. How do they figure out whether Ben Johnson can be a front of the room guy? How are you going to figure that out?
Well, you look at everything Matt Eberflus is, and you hope he's the opposite.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying, but it's not easy.
It's not.
You're not really going to know that. You're going to have. You can ask him, how would you handle this? How would you handle that? What would you do in this situation? We had X player doing this.
But you look at what you missed with Waldron. Like, somebody in Seattle should have been able to tell you that this guy does not challenge guys, does not put the bad things on the video board. Like, whatever it is, there's enough things and there's enough people you can talk to vet these guys. You just got to do it, not rush to a decision in 48 hours where you hire Matt.
So that's why, going back to your point earlier of like all the stuff you heard today is a lot of the same stuff, and there's no actual proof that this is going to get better. We just have to hope. Ryan Poles, with his evaluation of Shane Waldron, that doesn't mean that we can trust him on what his evaluation of his Ben Johnson. We can just hope that he learned from the mistakes of that evaluation process and then make the right decision here going forward.
All right, why don't we get to the Warren and McCaskey part of this? Which one do you guys want to play first here?
It's up to you guys. You guys,
we just had that discussion.
Oh, we did. Okay, we're sticking with it. All right, so George McCaskey is up first here. We're going to hear from the top of the food chain. I encourage you to watch the facial expressions on some of the questions and his reactions, especially when he gets the double question from Mark Potash, because it is there's some good entertainment in there.
We don't have a picture-in-picture of Hoge's face during this.
That is.
We can keep that up during the entire thing.
Next time. All right. So here we go.
We are going to play Warren too, so stick around. Those that want to hear Kevin.
Yeah. So we'll react to George and play Kevin coming up here. But here's George from earlier today.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. First, I want to thank Matt Eberflus for all of his hard work and dedication on behalf of the Bears. Thank you to Thomas Brown for all that he did and is doing for the Bears. He said himself he was placed in a very challenging situation, 3 jobs in 1 season, and he embraced that challenge. He said he doesn't run from them. I think it invigorated him, and he did great work on behalf of the Bears. Thirdly, thank you to the fans. We know this has been an incredibly frustrating season with the expectations of September and the disappointments of December, and they stuck with us, and we're grateful for that. They deserve a winner, and we're going to do everything we can to give it to them. And if Hub were here, I would invite him as the Helen Thomas of the Corps to ask the first question. I don't know who's second in tenure, but I would suggest that instead of shouting over each other, you respect each other and take turns.
George, at the Seattle game near the end of it, there's some pretty loud chants from the fans that were there, sell the team. What was your reaction? I'm sure you heard it or heard about it. What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, it's understandable. As Kevin mentioned, our fans are passionate. They're incredibly frustrated. They wanted to make their voices heard. I was more bothered by the week before when Lions fans tried to take over Soldier Field and force the home team to go to a silent snap count. Fortunately, that didn't happen. It's understandable that Bears fans would sell their tickets because of the way the season has gone. And the challenge for us is to put a team on the field that Bears fans are so excited about, they're not interested in selling their tickets.
George, how hard was it to... 3 years ago, you were part of a search process, obviously right in the center of that search process for a general manager and a head coach. What errors in judgment and process did you identify from that stage that you can apply now here in 2025?
Well, I think Ryan referenced it and Kevin referenced it. You learn from your experiences, gaining wisdom, insight into the process. We're very excited about the process that Ryan has laid out. We're going to start that process as soon as we finish with you folks, and we're looking forward to it.
You
guys have never fired a coach in season. How hard was that to do, and were you reluctant to fire Matt Eberflus in season?
We heard a lot about that. The Bears have never done it. Just because we had never done it doesn't mean that there wasn't a situation. Each situation is different. In the 100-year history of the Bears, one person held the job for 40 years. So there's that. I think you take each situation individually. It wasn't that we were adamantly opposed to do it or or anything like that. You do what you think is right in the moment.
George,
Kevin?
what was your reaction to Tyreek Stevenson's actions during the Hail Mary and how the team handled it the next couple weeks?
I had never seen anything like that. As an observer of this great game for more than 60 years, I was more interested after it happened in his reaction and his teammates' reaction. You know, I think he understood that he made a mistake. He owned up to it. He apologized to his teammates. He apologized to the fans. And he said he was going to learn from it, and I think he did.
George, what do you make of
George,
what do you make of the players saying that accountability was lacking in the locker room, and then talk that maybe Caleb Williams wasn't challenged as hard as he could have been challenged?
Well, I think the players are the best barometers of things like accountability. It is said that the great teams are really run by the players, that there's leadership in the locker room to bring that about. And we need to do better in that area going forward.
George. In 14 years that you've been in charge, the Bears have hired 3 general managers and 4 coaches. What evidence is there that you learned from these processes?
Well, the idea is to get it right. As I said, Bears fans deserve a winner, and we're going to do everything we can. I think with Ryan's leadership and the process that he's outlined, and with guidance from Kevin, Ryan's going to make the best decision going forward.
But why will this be different than the previous ones? I mean,
well, Ryan has the benefit of his experience, and he has the benefit of the guidance from Kevin, who's been through this process before. So we're hoping for a better result.
George, along those lines,
George, why do you think that the current power structure, the setup with Kevin and Ryan, will be cohesive in this coaching search?
Their alignment, their cohesion, their shared values, their communication, everything I've seen has been excellent, and expect good results as a result.
George, will Ryan need a contract extension to prove to an incoming coach that their futures are tied together?
I don't think so. In the interviews that I've participated in, that's never been a factor. Nobody has ever come in and said, I'm not going to come here unless the coach or the general manager and I are on the same timeline. So I don't think that's going to be a factor.
George, what if a coach wants to report a direct line to ownership? We've heard some want that. What do you say to them for that?
Our structure is vertical. Head coach reports to the general manager reports to the president reports to the chairman.
So that would be a deal breaker if someone said
that. Well, I haven't ever experienced anyone saying that. Usually, they want the job.
George, how often do you reflect on your own performance as chairman? Do you ever think about that maybe someone else should be stepping into that role? How long do you plan on staying in this role? Is there a succession plan?
Ultimately, I'm responsible for the failures of the Bears. The legacy of George Halas is excellence on the field and making a difference off the field. I think the Bears have done a great job off the field, making an impact in the community. The fact of the matter is, we haven't done it on the field, and ultimately, that's on me.
George,
Colleen?
Given the way the last 3 years have unfolded, why was it the right move to retain Ryan Poles?
We like his leadership. We like the staff that he's assembled. He has a couple of people on his staff, Ian Cunningham and Jeff King, who probably should be general managers for another NFL team. The communication has been excellent, and he's in a business where in the player personnel department, there are going to be hits and there are going to be misses, and the key is you have to have more hits than misses. So that is the challenge for him and for his staff.
George, we heard from Kevin about the stadium, the progress. What is your thoughts on the progress? Is it taking too long at this point?
No, it's not taking too long. These things take time. We're making progress, and we're looking forward to a good result.
Last one, Courtney.
Ryan said you guys are going to use outside counsel for background on these head coaching candidates. Who is that? Who's providing that background?
Whatever Ryan picks. that's entirely up to him.
Will Bill Polian, I know he's been part of some of these head coaching searches for you guys before, will he have a seat in any of these meetings?
If Ryan wants him to, that's fine with me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, so much to pick through there with our guy George.
Okay,
you
if
might have won.
Ryan and Poles wants Bill Polian involved, that's not the answer.
Yeah, no.
The answer is no, I'm the boss, and you will not have Bill Polian involved because we screwed that up last time.
No.
But can we
No, the
please-
policy is we are not going to bring up Bill Polian ever again, George. Stop bringing him up.
Yeah, but can we please rewind back to the Hoge question? Will you fire yourself? It was basically what
it's fair.
I understand. Hey, man, you've been doing this for a long time. Maybe somebody else should do it.
Paul Paps from the Dan Patrick Show tweeted it at us, and I thought it was a fair point. He's like, a good follow-up to that would have been, if you were an employee, would you fire yourself?
Right. And you hear like
They weren't taking follow-ups, though, really.
I mean, look, you hear some rumblings that, like, George hired Kevin. George is getting out of the way. George doesn't want to be doing the press conference that George had to do today. George isn't happy. Nobody asked about Virginia today, though. That was, I guess, a miss. Look, Mark Potash, you really are a gem.
Did you see what Potsy tweeted while Kevin Warren was talking?
Potsy was on fire today.
Well, while you're finding it, I'll just say, I think that obviously from a fan point of view, hearing him address that he heard fans saying sell the team, and his response to that is, what disappointed me more was the week before when Bears fans sold their tickets and there was more Lions fans than Bears fans in there. Okay. And I'm glad he acknowledges that we as fans, have been given a reason to sell those tickets because the product on the field isn't good enough. And so it should disturb him that Lions fans, I was at that game. Our guy Eric took me, and so Big Cram, shout out Eric. And, it was tough to see a majority Lions fans in that crowd. But the sell the team stuff should also resonate with you just as hard. We understand you're never going to sell the team, George, but this whole organization across the board is trying to skate accountability a touch too much. And, every time we come to this moment where everybody has to come together and we're going to talk about collaboration. Now, today, the word of the day is process and, culture and leadership. And, this is a broken system, and this is your organization. And we expect you as the fans to fix it because we're not going anywhere. And so you have us kind of tied up. But in the meantime, I need you to acknowledge the sell the team chants are about our disapproval of you. And if you're not going to fire yourself, fair. But hey, it's time for you to make some serious changes to the organizational structure that's going to start having a winning product for us to root for. Because my whole life, I might have had 5 opportunities to be happy about what I see in a season.
We got to get to Kevin Warren because we're running out of time. But real quick, that answer you brought up to Brad's question about the sell the team chance, that was so close to being one of the all-time answers an owner has ever given in the history of Chicago sports. Because I thought he was blaming the fans for a second. Like, that bothered me more that the Lions took over our stadium. How could that happen? Now
we almost had to use a snap count at home.
He saved it though.
Listen here.
He saved it though by being like, I understand why they would sell their tickets. It's our fault. Because if he had, as I'm standing there, I'm like, oh my God, is he about to really blame the fans? And no, he saved it. But
that's the thing.
It's still kind of a pretty crazy pivot to that fair question about sell the team. Not answer it and bring up ticket sales.
But that's the thing. We don't root for George McCaskey. We root for the team. And so when you saw in Green Bay, look how many Bears fans were at that game celebrating when the team won. We're not worried about George McCaskey in total, but you are the reason that this structure has become what it has and the failures are on your plate. So we're not rooting for you. And it's either sell the team or not, whatever, but it's more about get this fixed because we're sick of the crap.
I mean, he sounded like a really good ticket salesman, and he's paying attention to tickets, which is where his, at least, a large part of his tenure.
Well, that's the bulletproofness of this franchise is the tickets. I see people in the chat right now. See, don't go to the games, and George is going to realize it. Well, the seats are going to mostly still be full because it's the NFL and it's the Chicago Bears.
All right,
let's just get to Kevin.
Yep. All right, Kevin Warren. Let's hear from team president Kevin, putting on the bold face as per always. Here and some stadium stuff in here, coaching stuff, a ton of stuff. Here's Kevin Warren.
And all these interviews they go both ways. It's not only us interviewing the candidates, but it's the candidates interviewing us. And I want to make sure, I know Ryan wants to make sure that we provide all the opportunities for candidates to ask, questions. So I like the collaborative nature of it, to be able to have them involved in the process at the appropriate time. I know early on it will be a smaller group, as Ryan addressed.
So the finalist phase? So
Well, I don't know if it's a finalist phase. Ryan, because he's running point on it, he'll dictate when that happens. But I think the lesson of it is that this will be a collaborative environment and process.
Kevin, there might be some coaching candidates who come in who want to bring in their own general managers. How do you respond to that, saying that Ryan's leading the search? If somebody comes in and says, I want this job, but I want my own GM.
Yeah, one, I think, we made it clear. I made it clear on early December. And as Ryan talked about today, he is our point person on the search. He's our general manager. He's head of football operations. From a hypothetical standpoint, it probably wouldn't be appropriate for me to answer that at that point in time. I'm confident in our process. I said it in December, and I'll say it again. This will be a coveted job. I mean, we have so much going for us. We have incredible ownership. We have the best fan base in the world. We found a franchise quarterback. We have salary cap space. We have draft capital. We live in a world-class city. We just have a lot of attributes going for us. So I'm confident that if we do our job from a process standpoint, which we will, and sit down and be open and honest, that people will look at this as a great opportunity. And from a hypothetical standpoint, I'm confident with the group that we have right now, and Brian leading our charge.
Kevin, Ryan has been in this role for 3 years now, and 2 years under your supervision. What is your assessment of his performance as general manager, and what are your biggest concerns about the state of the organization right now?
Yeah, I think the assessment, we've made it clear. I trust him, and he is a hard worker. He's young, he's talented, he's curious. I think his greatest attribute, he's willing, as he did just in the press conference, to raise his hand and say, here's some things where he fell short. He's as hard on himself more than anyone could be hard on him. And he strives every single day to do the right thing. And I think one of the things in life I encourage Ryan and others is to be self-reflective, which has been good. And I think that's one of the things that I've noticed throughout the season. I've noticed from the first day that we met, and even up to this morning, when we got together at 6 o'clock this morning here early, is that he's reflecting on what he can do to continually be the leader that I know he is, and he will continually grow to be a great leader. And he's passionate about it. He cares. All those things really go into it. He's not here just all for all the accoutrements of being a general manager in the league. He wants to win. He loves this franchise. He's passionate about the Chicago Bears, and he's going to do everything he can.
As competitive as you are, what are your concerns about where this team is at the end of the 2024 season?
You know me as well as anyone. I despise losing, and so I am focused at every level, and at anything I compete in, winning with integrity is my focus, and so from a critical standpoint is we need to do better here. I mean, collectively. And it's not them. When I say we, I'm talking about me collectively. And I'm going to continually pour every ounce of energy in here from a business operations standpoint, from a stadium standpoint, from a football standpoint, to provide all the resources that I have access to, all of my energy and insight to win. And I'm confident that we will win here. We will win championships here. It's not going to be easy. And I know sometime in life you got to go down to be able to come up, but that's part of it. We're built for this. We have the support of ownership. And the thing that I like about it is that there has been no taking a step back. You saw it in Green Bay. That would have been a very easy game for our players. It was cold. It's on the road. We hadn't won in the division. We hadn't beat them in a long time. But to come together, and even the way the game went, to make our mind up that even after the turnover, to say, let's rally together. And I thought it was apropos to end the season 1-0 in 2025, but do it with a walk-off field goal. And I think that helps set the tone. But yes, we're going to do all that we can to build a champion here.
Just
You
to be clear
mentioned the
on,
word stadium. You've been here unofficially for 2 years.
20 months.
Yeah, 20 months. What is the status of the stadium? Is downtown still the focus? Is
Yes.
Darlington Heights, and when are we going to see momentum?
Yeah, so the status is downtown still remains the focus, the museum campus. I feel that we've made a massive amount of momentum. Again, I've been here 20 months, and we've made great progress. But along with those lines, we own 326 acres of beautiful land in Arlington Heights. It's a fantastic piece of property. We were able to get the memorandum of understanding done there. And so optionality, does exist, but I'll remain steadfast that the goal is to make sure that we have shovels in the ground in 2025, and I'm confident that will happen.
What's the progress in
For
momentum?
you personally, having to invest the time you have to invest in this coaching search, does that take away the time that you could be spending on the stadium?
This is my life. I mean, fortunately, I have a wife. We've been, married coming up on 34 years. She's grown up in this business. My kids grew up in this business. I have adult kids. This is my life. The Chicago Bears are my life. And so I spend so much time here anyway. And the thing, as I said it in December, and I'll say it again today, this decision on our head football coach will impact the trajectory of this franchise for the next 10, 15, 20 years. We have to get this right, and I'm confident that we will.
For all the reasons you listed about your confidence in Ryan,
yes,
are you committed to him for the long term? Because that seems like that would be a potential concern for a new coach coming in. If Ryan is at the end of his contract, and this new coach would be starting his contract.
I mean, there are a lot of assumptions in your question. When we say long term, I mean, a year is a lifetime, and I know that's important. And I know 2025 is important not only from a football standpoint, from a stadium standpoint, from an operation standpoint. And so, again, I trust Ryan. I trust the process that he has put together. I'm confident it will yield positive results. We will hire a world-class coach, whether it's Thomas Brown or someone who currently does not work in our organization. We will get this right. And I'm looking forward to it. I am so excited about being able to start these interviews. I haven't been able to sleep the last couple nights.
All right, hey, we're going to work this right here. 1, 2, 3.
What exactly is the progress and momentum you speak of with the stadium search? Because it doesn't seem like there's been a ton of that.
Yeah, I mean, when you say it doesn't seem like that, I mean, we have stadium meetings every single day. And so from a political standpoint, from a business standpoint, these things are massive projects. I've been here before in Minnesota. This is not buying a house where you go and find it and you put a deposit down and then you close at a certain day. It's so many different things that come together. And I think as you'll see, especially as we get into the spring and summer, you'll start seeing some of this progress that I'm talking about now. But I feel the momentum is really moving in the right direction. And we're exactly, from a stadium standpoint, right exactly where I thought we would be.
Last two. Courtney, go ahead.
When Ryan talks about accountability, Thomas Brown saying
Yes.
that the foundation needs to be different. At one point, Shane Waldron was a great candidate,
Yep.
so much so he got hired here. Same thing with Matt Eberflus. Are there things that you have to guard against, knowing how things fell apart this year, personality-wise, leadership-wise, in these meetings, so those same sorts of people are not brought into this organization for the next search?
Courtney, that's a fantastic question. I think there's nothing to guard against. I would twist it a little bit, and I would say there's standards that we have to set, and that it becomes very simple. The way I look at my life, it becomes very simple. Either you're above the line or below the line. And I think the standard has to be, there's certain standards we're going to have to set, from discipline, accountability, hard work, vision, foresight, leadership, game management from a coaching standpoint. And I think we have to commit to those standards, and we have to hold each other accountable that if people start to deviate and justify a reason to go below the standard, we have to say the standard is the standard. It's not about the person, it's about the standard. And I think once we set that standard in the process, which we have done, it will become clear who are the candidates that meet that standard, and then you look for the goodness of fit. But I think that's the thing that I will make sure that I'll focus on making sure that we set the standard and that we abide by the standard.
Kevin, from your time in Minnesota, what experiences can you draw on that will help you in a coaching search. Were you involved in coaching searches there?
100%, yes. And I think with the experiences is that you need to make sure, if I would say one attribute, is to go into the search without your mind made up. I think that's the thing that I learned the most. You need to go into these searches wide open and to be able to look at it just from a global standpoint. And what I just said to Courtney is having a standard. You know, what are we looking for? There takes a certain kind of person, and I say this lovingly with all respect. This is a phenomenal franchise, it's a historical franchise in an incredible city. But our fan base is, because they're so passionate, you have to be sturdy, you have to be disciplined, you have to be strong here in Chicago. You have to basically emulate what Chicago stands for. So this job is a unique job for everyone in these leadership positions. And so I think the thing that I learned in Minnesota is to make sure that you go into this process with clean hands, clean eyes, no decisions, and make sure you set the standard. And then once it becomes clear that that person meets that standard, or those persons, start to zero in and then make a determination. And then once you make a determination, you got to go forward. You can't look back.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all.
Thanks, Kevin. There it is, Kevin Warren.
Clean hands, clean eyes. Bad news for you. We know you don't clean your hands coming out of the bathroom.
I absolutely do not. I just live my life the way I live my life, and I made it this far, so thank you to who's ever watching over me. Look, it's fun watching the comments with Kevin.
During both of those.
And with George. He knows how to get through a press conference, Kevin Warren. I'll say that. His positivity is on display. I think if you when I first heard Kevin talk, my trusting in what he was saying was very high up the food chain. Now I just think he's just as they continue to lose and no stadium and yada yada, and he's still saying that the museum campus is the focus, all these things. I think Bears Nation is just continue to go down lower and lower and lower and trusting what he's saying and tuning him out.
Well, it just gets back to how I started the show. I mean, the talking's great. I think he's a great speaker. I want to believe what he's saying, but where's the stadium? Where's the coach? Where's the wins?
Right.
Most importantly, where is the winning? You know what I mean? Like multiple championships, all this stuff. It's all great. I'm not saying he can't get them there. I keep saying he is the one thing that's different this time around. Kevin Warren hasn't been here.
Right.
Okay, so maybe he is the thing but just that's just not enough reason to believe it's going to be different this time. So they just have to do it however they get there.
Right. He's the different variable, as George said when he was pressed, like from Mark Potash, like can we trust that it's going to be any different for you this time around, George? And he goes, well, this time Kevin's here and the structure. So while it is different, doesn't guarantee the results will be different. But
all right, we got to fire through super chats and get out of here.
Kick it off, Hoge.
Emiliano, $5. These fools just need to hire Ben the Pen Johnson. It's the obvious choice, even if they get it wrong. If they go with another Anthony Weaver, it's over.
Well, they're uncovering all the rocks, Emiliano. So you never know. It could be the three-man weave. It's a great drill.
Second one from Emiliano. Top 5, Johnson, Vrabel, Carroll, Brady, Cohen.
They're not scheduled to talk to Pete Carroll, correct? He's not on the list of 13?
I haven't seen that yet.
Not on the list.
Not on the list.
Didn't make the list. Not in the top 13.
They might not be done. Why waste time on the Giants and Cardinals? OC's waste of time. DJ Cal, $5. Met Adam in London. Can verify he looks into your soul when having a combo.
Whoa. That's on.
DJ Cal's a good man. That is. You want to talk to me? That's what you got to look at right there.
The face of a man who's covered 8 coaching searches. Chubbs, 82, $10. This was a clown show, and we have no chance of being good. They've lost Chubbs. These people are incompetent.
How hard it is to do that.
If you took anything away from today, you have a blindfold on and a helmet, a soundproof room in space. Chubbs has left the building. On the mark, $5. These guys casting a wide net with their obvious choices, like playing pin the tail of the donkey, and we are the only ones with a blindfold on. That's sort of how I started my thoughts on
some
today.
betting odds on who the head coach of the Bears will be right now at plus 100 is Ben Johnson, plus 450 Cliff Kingsbury, plus 500 Aaron Glenn, Also plus 500, Brian Flores. Guess who's number 5 at plus 700?
Peter Diamond, who's our next super chatter.
Marcus Freeman.
That's not bad. Maybe they were listening to you yesterday and Hoge a month ago.
It's weird.
He's the only one still bringing Mark.
I'm intrigued. I think it's funny. Why is he in there? Why is he on that list? I didn't make that.
Because I have that much power.
$5 from Peter Diamond. We're going to suck forever, aren't we? No, we're not, Peter. But it's on the table.
Not off the table.
Chevy Wellington coming at us, $50. Hate post still. Nice softball questions. Ho, Carm. Happy the last guy asked about the O-line. It's all good. Unreal. CHGO, it's your turn. What are you guys going to do differently to prepare your fans for the next season? Horrible job last season.
Yes, I love it, Chevy. I agree. Carm was terrible.
This year was on us, and we need to be better. Thank you, Chevy.
I asked the owner if he should fire himself.
Softball,
sorry.
Charlie M in the super chat, $2.
They'd have let me in that room and been like, why do you guys suck? But they don't let me in that room.
That's why you're not in the room.
Okay, I'm doing everything I can with Bears PR to keep you out of the room.
I'd have got you front row.
You might have done that. $2. Carm looked like Forrest Gump with Kennedy. I thought
Don't talk over that super. That was probably the
Carm
best super.
looks like Forrest Gump with Kennedy.
Yeah, when they superimposed Forrest Gump into the actual. That was I saw that come up during the show. It's a fantastic comment. Yeah. We got to go for Hawks.
All right, we got to go for Hawks. But
We got one more from $4.99. Crystal, sending love because we will all need it. Just wake me up when all this is complete. I can't with the Bears. Keep up the great coverage, guys, and Bears Down. Yeah, you can do this every day because you're going to be with us every single day on this show.
Real quick, couple things I got to promote before we get out of here. Okay, our guy Pat Norton is at House Hall right now, writing up a huge write-up on everything that happened today. So make sure you check that out, allchgo.com. Probably should have plugged this earlier, but we will probably plug it a lot over the next few days. You guys have seen what we've done with our draft database during the draft season. We have recreated that for the coaching search. As soon as we get done with the show, I'm about to go jump in there and write a bunch of stuff in there. So if you are a diehard, you have to be a diehard to access that, but that is going to be your go-to place for all the information during this coaching search. allchgo.com/diehard. Go become a diehard. We greatly appreciate you. We got to go.
CHGO Blackhawks coming right up in 7 rough minutes. See you then.